My name is Sebastian Rose. I study at the University of Greenwich. I'm a PhD candidate there on the Vice Chancellor Scholarship. I am in the history department. Before I started my PhD at the University of Greenwich, I was doing my master's at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands in IR, and there I was able to take some modules on Iranian history and politics and literature, and that's really where my kind of passion and my interest for Iran started. And it opened up more questions than it answered. So I decided to kind of pursue a PhD looking at some of those questions a bit further.
Oh, thank you very much. That's interesting. I like how we discover things and then we get more questions than we have answers, and I think that's always a good sign, isn't it? Especially when you enter into a field. So, what is your PhD on, and what are your research interests?
Yeah, so the PhD broadly focuses on Anglo-Iranian relations in the 19th century, but specifically I look at the IETD, which was the Indo-European Telegraph Department, which was a department from the British-Indian government, which built and then ran the telegraph network that ran through Iran. And what I'm particularly interested in looking at the telegraph network and system in Iran is the actual stations themselves. So much of the work about the telegraph and about telecommunications more broadly focuses on the kind of so-called revolutionary aspect of communications and its dematerialization of messages, and what I'm really interested in is kind of grounding that in actual spaces, and looking at the political and the social impact that this telecommunication network had. And Iran's really interesting because it was the only space where the IETD actually ran the stations directly, and it was never, Iran was never a formal British colony. So you have this interesting mix of kind of technical work and technical expertise with political power, and the political power that's projected through these spaces.
That's very interesting, and I think it sounds like your work is going to make a lot of impact on our understanding of British-Iranian relations, and definitely opens up new avenues of what British power looked like in Iran, especially in the 19th century. And I suppose, I mean, you've already answered this, but were there other things that led you to this topic? Were there scholars that interested you, for example?
Yeah, so I was really inspired to kind of work on Iran, well, partly through my experience at Leiden University, but also the work of Martin Bailey, who's worked on Afghanistan and Britain in the 19th century, and the way that Afghanistan was imagined. And Afghanistan is like a frontier space or a buffer state. And I really wanted to see if I could kind of apply some of his workings and his concepts to Iran. But also my supervisor, Gavin Rand, he's worked a lot on frontier spaces in the 19th century in the Northwest frontier, and the way which violence was used performatively in kind of constructing these spaces. So on the one hand, I'm really interested in kind of the larger imperial literature, particularly on frontiers in relation to British India. But on the other, I'm really interested in Iran as a country in the 19th century. And also, I think the way that Iranians understand Iranian history and Anglo-Iranian relations in the 19th century is really interesting to me, as myself as a British person, and lots of people, British people that I know, don't really, or didn't really, before I came to this study, didn't really understand that relation in such a complex way. And so I really wanted to kind of understand and untangle that a bit.
That's great, and I think that it's important to sort of shed light and shed new light into this to this relationship, and to sort of expand our knowledge about British-Iranian relations. No, thank you very much. And why did you decide to study in the UK? Because you were at Leiden and then you came back to the UK. So what made you do that?
Yeah, so I looked to the Netherlands as possible place to do a PhD. But I chose the UK partly because it's where all my sources are, it's where the archives are. So we've got the British Library and National Archives. But also I think London in particular, but the UK more broadly, is just a really great kind of center for different studies, for different scholars. So there's so many great events going on, and so many interesting things going on, like this initiative that brings together different scholars from different fields. So yeah, that really attracted me to study in the UK, and I'm from the UK, so I already had like a network of friends and family
Oh,
here.
that's
So
nice. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's important to have that, especially when you're doing a PhD, to have your community. And just lastly, what are your thoughts on Iranian studies as an academic field in the UK? Do you think it's something that's quite visible, and something that you can identify yourself with?
Yeah, so I would say I've just finished my first year, so I'm quite new to Iranian studies. But I would say through the thing that I like about Iranian studies, as I kind of alluded to, was the fact that there's lots of scholars working on not only different time periods, but different kind of aspects of study, and the fact that they're able to kind of form a academic community, even though they're looking at so many different diverse things, is I think really cool. And platforms like this enable us to kind of gather together and share ideas and get to know different people. Yeah, so
that's nice. Yeah.
I don't speak from a position of kind of knowing Iranian studies intimately, but that's kind of my experience of having this kind of loose network of people working across different fields.
Yeah.
And yeah, I find that really, really helpful and useful.
Well, that's nice. Well, thank you very much for your talk, and for inspiring us as well to look more at British-Iranian relations. And thank you for your time and sharing your experiences as well.
Thank you.